Stomach activity really starts at the sight, smell, taste of food. But once food enters the stomach, it can send a or kickstart a short reflex to upregulate stomach activity. And the stomach's job is to store food, start the process of digestion or continue the process of digestion, breakdown, and then also defense to defend the body against invaders or pathogens. And all of this is sort of done so by the motility of the stomach and the gastric secretion. So the protection and digestion really involved with the gastric secretions, and there is a lot of different cells that we talk about when we talk about the stomach. So the first type of cell is something called a G cell, and a G cell is going to secrete gastrin. So that one's easy to remember, right? Gastrin G. And it is secreted as a result of the presence of amino acids inside of the stomach. So amino acids and peptides in the stomach, picked up by sensory receptors, and that stimulates the release of that gastrin. Okay. It can also be secreted or triggered to be released by neural reflexes in the enteric nervous system. Okay. Second type of cell that we're going to talk about is going to be the parietal cell. Okay. And your parietal cell is going to be responsible for essentially producing hydrochloric acid. I don't like to say that parietal cells are responsible for secreting hydrochloric acid because they secrete a proton and a chloride ion independently of one another. Okay, and you're going to produce about 1 to 3 liters of this acid per day. Right? And so it's going to have a variety of different functions, including the activation of some other cells called D cells, right? And this is largely caused by some other other signaling molecules inside of the stomach. And it is triggered by the release of what we call the rule of three, meaning there are three things that can stimulate its release, and if we have one of those, it's a decent amount of release. We have two, we have more. If we have all three, we get even more secretion. And those three things are histamine, gastrin, which we said came from our G cells, right? And acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is going to come from the enteric nervous system. Okay, so this hydrochloric acid is going to help with the breakdown. It's going to denature proteins. It's going to activate some enzymes, and it's going to also help kill some bacteria. Okay, third type of cell that we're going to talk about is a chief cell. Chief cells are responsible for secreting pepsin, and pepsin is responsible for the digestion of protein. So it is secreted as pepsinogen, but that hydrochloric acid is what activates it and turns it from pepsinogen, the inactive form of the enzyme, to pepsin, its active form. And our chief cells are largely controlled or stimulated to release the pepsinogen by that acetylcholine of the enteric nervous system. Okay. We also have what we refer to as ECL cells, and these stand for enterochromaffin-like cell. And I guess I should write that down, right? Enterochromaffin like cell, right? Or an ECL cell. And this is the one that is responsible for secreting histamine. Okay, so your ECL cells is what secretes histamine, and it's triggered by gastrin and part of the enteric nervous system. So we'll say acetylcholine again. Another type of cell that we are going to talk about is our D cell. And our D cell is responsible for secreting somatostatin. So remember, somatostatin activates our parietal cell, right? Or, sorry, somatostatin is going to inhibit this parietal cell, right? So it is in a feedback loop with the chief cell. So this is going to be protons that are going to have an effect on that. So somatostatin is going to inhibit our parietal cell. And then the last type of cell that we tend to talk about is our mucus cell. And our mucus cells are just going to produce mucus, and that mucus also is going to have some bicarbonate in it. That is going to be important when we talk about hydrochloric acid production and something known as the mucosal barrier on the stomach.